Hey everybody, it's Tim Hinton, the Beast of the Marching Arts. Thank you so much for listening and watching, hopefully, this conversation. I'm here with MK Campbell. How are you, MK?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. So you're here from Marching Health, and of course, we're talking about drum corps athletic trainers. This is going to be interesting. Like, where do they come from? What do they do? How hard is it to find them? Because I think that's the trick. Everybody needs so much help now. So MK, what have you been doing this summer? I know you've been super busy. I've
Yes.
kind of been able to like set this up as you're flying from here to there. So tell me about your summer. What were you doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. But yeah, so the summer's been a wild journey of traveling and all that kind of stuff. But I have just started full time with Marching Health. So I'm the director of health and wellness now, and so I've really had the opportunity to go teach a bunch of clinics this summer, which has been amazing. I've also been helping out with the Carolina Crown medical team just here and there as I can with my available time in between clinics, which has been really fun. That the medical team there has been amazing to work with, and just really getting to be able to do the more athletic training side of things in terms of seeing performers and treating and doing all that kind of stuff. But majority of my summer has been spent doing clinics. So we travel nationwide. We've been all over the country this summer. So it's been super awesome from coast to coast, really, from East Coast to West Coast, all the way out to Hawaii. So we've really had a great summer getting clinics on almost every day. Well, about every day this summer we've been booked out with clinics, which has been great. But yeah, staying busy,
Wow,
traveling. Yeah.
that's amazing. So congrats on the position with Marching Health, and of course, Elliot Cleveland, Dr. Elliot Cleveland, and the whole everybody at Marching Health is doing such an amazing job. And we're going to talk about what you're doing with DCI specifically and sort of the new roles you have there and how that all works. Everybody, if you have questions and you're watching live, please type those into the comment section, and we will be paying attention to those as we go. So, how did you end up in this really important, cool, fun role with Marching Health? Tell me a little bit about like what led you there, like what degree maybe, and how you ended
Mhm.
up there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, kind of my background, I started out, I did color guard for, oh gosh, over a decade probably. I started in eighth grade and did it all throughout high school, college, beyond college. And then I did winter guard as well. So, competing with WGI and DCI. I marched with Colts, Crossmen, and Bluecoats throughout my time in drum corps. So, I did that in 2017, 2018, and 2021. I was kind of in the COVID era in my age out. But yeah, so I. Really had a passion for wanting to be in the medical field, and really just like my mom was a doctor, and so I really wanted to jump into the medical side of things, but I wasn't quite sure how I was going to I guess what route I was going to go. I was deciding between physical therapy and athletic training. Those were like the two professions I was going to like choose. And so I was actually talking with Dr. Elliot Cleveland and about how, his experience has been as a physical therapist back in, oh gosh, I think it was like 2017 or a while back. And he was giving me some great feedback as well. But when I was on tour with Crossman and the Bluecoats, I actually had an athletic trainer who she was actually both with me at Crossman and at Bluecoats. And so we had chatted a little while, and I really wanted to get into the performing arts world as well as being in the medical field. So I was like, how can I combine these two things to really make my passion come to life? And so I got my undergrad I got my undergrad degree in exercise science, and then I went on to get my master's in athletic training. And so when I was in my master's and I was doing all my clinical rotations, I was like, man, I really want to be on tour with drum corps. Like, that is my dream, like just to be able to help performers get back to doing what they love, because I know I needed that help when I was marching. And so I really was able to kind of shadow when I was marching Bluecoats and really get to understand more about the behind the scenes of being an athletic trainer in drum corps. And so in school, I did an internship with the cadets medical team, which Dr. Elliott actually had introduced me to the medical team and really got me connected with them. And so I was able to spend a little over a month on tour. So that last leg from like mid-July to all the way to finals, I was able to spend with the cadets and had a blast learning about all things, athletic training and drum corps as a student. And then the past 2 years, I've been helping out with Carolina Crown. So it's been an amazing journey kind of getting to this endpoint. And then so once I graduated from my master's at UGA, I was like, well, what do I want to do? Like, I have, a bunch of choices, to go into in terms of jobs. And I was like, well, I kind of want to just move to Hawaii. So I booked a one-way flight and moved to Hawaii.
I
And
love
then,
it.
yeah. And then Elliot called me when I was living in Hawaii, and he was like, what do you think about joining Marching Health full time? And I was like, absolutely. That is my dream job. Like, I would absolutely love that. So I was an athletic trainer out in Hawaii at a high school on Big Island in Kona. And yeah, so ever since then, I kind of had been training with him, getting onboarded. And then I fully moved back to the mainland in April of this year and got started with Marching Health. So that was a long-winded answer, but that's
No, I
kind of how
love
I
it.
got to where I got.
And
Yeah.
welcome back to the mainland. That's I guess
Thank you.
it's what I get to say across the pond to my friends in Europe.
Yeah,
Anyway, that's
exactly.
I love learning the lingo. So I got to tell you, MK, what is most exciting to me about everything you just said is that I love to remind. Well, I love to encourage people that you don't know where you're going to end up. Like you
Yeah.
have these ideas of here's things I'm good at, and here's the things I like to do, and here's things I'm interested in. But life has this way of like taking you around the corner, and you end up somewhere you never expected. That happened for me. It happened for so many of my friends. And you
Yeah.
are like the poster child because you loved the marching arts, you loved color guard, you loved fitness and athletic training, like all this stuff combined in the perfect way for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been an amazing journey, and it's just been like so like unexpected, but also so like amazing and just enjoyable to be able to go on this journey. So yeah,
Great.
absolutely.
Well, thank you for being another great example of follow the things you love to do, get really good at the things you love to do, and life takes care of you and puts
Yes.
you right where you need to be. And I think you're a great example of that. So we're going to talk about DCI specifically, how you guys get athletic trainers, how they're found and trained and all that kind of stuff. But before I do, you were talking about all these clinics that you and Dr. Elliot Cleveland have been doing with Marching Health. Also, like, tell me what does this mean? What kind of clinic is it? Who's it for? I don't know
Yeah.
anything about that. Really, I think I have an idea what it might be. I'd like to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. So our clinics, we teach clinics all over the U.S. and a lot of our clinics are more at high school settings, but we also teach with colleges, and we've worked with drum corps in the past, as well as doing more of we're starting to jump into more of the winter ensembles. So I'm excited to really take off on some of those projects as well. But the clinics that we do for high schools and colleges are really to help them get their, I guess, more of the injury prevention side of things. So we teach them a workout program, our 15-minute marching band workout, and we lead them through all the things that they need to know. We meet with their leadership team. So we'll do typically 2 hours of our 4-hour like typical clinic we'll do with the leadership team. So we actually meet with them and talk about, what it means to be a leader and how to teach, and really dive into the what, the how, the why to what we do, and really make sure that they understand the why behind the madness, right? The method to the madness, if you will. And so we meet with the leadership team, but we also meet with full band and run them through our phase one. We have 3 different phases to our marching band workout, our 15-minute workout. So we progress them through each phase. Each phase takes about a month. And so what we do is make sure that they get a good, strong foundation, especially meeting the youngest member of the band where they're at and really getting them strong, and that way everyone in the band is kind of going in the same progression. And so once they get through that month of phase one, we progress them on to the next phase, and so on and so forth. So that way they're progressing, they're getting stronger as the season goes on, and then they peak their strength and conditioning season, right, or their programming right around the time where they start competing. So that September, October kind of time frame is where we want them to start peaking at their performance level, so that the way they can perform, at their best when they are competing. So really our clinics are geared towards that more injury prevention, knowing the why behind what we do, giving them a really good workout program to be able to prevent injuries. Because let's be real, I had a knee injury when I was like back in 8th grade in color guard, and I could have prevented that if I had had marching health back when I was in high school.
Exactly. Now, listen, is there anything worse than being a band director or a staff member and having somebody injured sitting on the side? That kid's not having fun and getting to do anything. You're missing someone. Like, we all want to, plus we want the kids to stay safe, right? So, we've been talking about how athletic marching band is. It's always been, and now it's more and more and more the demands on the body. So the need for this knowledge, like the
Hmm.
why seems sort of like a no-brainer to me, but I understand why you have to sell people on going to the trouble.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And being like a color guard director too, I understand the importance of having everyone in a rehearsal, right? Like you have someone missing in drill, and you're like, I can't see this picture completely, or whatever it is, you know. And so I understand the frustrations that band directors have, especially with kids sitting out on the sideline, and not having everyone participating because of heat illness, or we talk a lot about those things, not only just the strength and conditioning part of it, but also the how do you be an athlete like outside of strength and conditioning. So it's like, how do we make sure that we get proper nutrition and hydration, and we're taking the right steps to make sure that we are acclimating to the heat. It takes 14 days, it takes 2 weeks to really get acclimated to the heat. And so it's important that they're taking those steps to be able to perform at their best, especially during band camp. Some of those kids just sit at home and in the air conditioning before they get into the band camp, season, and they don't understand like the demands, especially obviously the newer members don't really understand quite yet because they're just getting into it. And so, yeah, understanding the demands of what it takes to be a performer, because we are athletes, and so it's important that we take care of our bodies. And how do we recover, after a really good workout and you're sore, right? Like, how do you take care of your body post workout? So all these things are really important that we try to emphasize within those clinics. So yeah, just taking care of your body, not just in rehearsal, but outside of rehearsal too.
Yeah, there's so much that we all need to understand and know to really keep ourselves safe and be at the best we can be for this activity. And I love that Marching Health is here to like give us there's resources available where you can figure this out for your band. And there's clinics where you can get it expressed in person, and like all of this is very, very helpful. So now Marching Health has a very important role with Drum Corps International. So like
Mhm.
this, I was very excited when I heard about this because I know it's like an official thing. So tell me about what this role is with DCI.
Yeah, absolutely. So, partnering with DCI, we really want to help all of the drum corps. One, we are giving them access to our preseason conditioning program, so that way they can all do training on their own before they even get started with the season. This is going to help tremendously, because without that injury prevention programming beforehand, you're at a way higher risk during your marching bands or during the drum corps season, right? That you are going to, possibly get injured, hopefully not, but there's a possibility of that down the road. And so having that injury prevention on the front end of things and really getting strong and to be able to do what you need to do to going into your season, because spring training, it's like, oh my gosh, it's intense, and it's a lot for the body to be able to accommodate to those long 12 14-hour rehearsal days. So it's important that we can train as much as we can to get strong, to be able to support our bodies in that time frame during spring training, so that we're not going down the route of injury. So that's kind of the first part of it, is really getting them that access to that conditioning program that will help the members of drum corps. So all corps will have access to that. And then also what we have been working on this summer is helping drum corps get access to athletic trainers and helping them staff their medical teams, which is a really big challenge with all drum corps in general. It's been an issue, I think, since as long as I can remember, and being involved in the activity. I don't think back like when I was marching early on, I don't even think we had a medical team, like at least to my knowledge, So it's
Well, there
definitely
was somebody there, but they weren't athletic trainers. And that's what's so exciting, is that you're helping them have really qualified, learned people.
yeah, exactly. So definitely evolving kind of the medical field, and really getting staffing more present and in front of the performer. So you're totally right. There was probably definitely someone there. I just didn't know about him.
Well, I mean, they were there to
um,
put on a band-aid or help, but I mean,
right.
we were all
Yeah.
taken care of, but not in
Yeah.
this way. And especially, like we said, the demands of the activity now, you not only
Exactly.
have to do, as you said, prepare yourself and be ready. You can't just
Yeah.
show up,
Yeah.
but having the team. So that strikes me as being a giant task
Hmm.
to help find all these trainers. So how do you find all these athletic trainers that the corps need?
Yeah, so a couple of different routes. So we've been kind of figuring out recruiting strategies for all of the corps. And so a lot of it is kind of when we are, okay, so if you think about the athletic training world, it is a very small world of people. And so it's because the athletic training degree recently went from having a bachelor's degree to requiring now a master's degree in order to sit for our boards. It's increased, or I guess it's decreased, the amount of athletic trainers coming out into the field, because that's an extra degree that you're having to get now. And so the graduating classes are just a little bit smaller. And so we're seeing kind of a shortage, honestly, in all of athletic training, not just in the performing arts world, but in all of the profession. We're kind of seeing a shortage in this. So what we have been doing in terms of recruiting strategies is, one, I mean, first of all, when you're talking about a medical team, right, you want to make sure that you have a medical director or a physician, right? So whether it's a DO or an MD, whatever their, I guess, background is, we want to make sure that every drum corps has a physician, because that's kind of the overarching person that's going to have all the standing orders for the medical team. So like as athletic trainers, we have to have standing orders in order to practice. And so we fall under a physician. So according to the NATA, it's important for, or it's required for athletic trainers to practice under a physician. And so a lot of times with some of the, like, or I guess it's challenging to have obviously a medical director and then also have the rest of your medical staff as well. So not just athletic trainers, but nurses, EMTs, physical therapists, you name it. Like we want a all-encompassing medical team a part of each drum corps is really the goal here. Wow. And so I guess the first thing is really making sure that you have a medical director. That's the first important thing. So we've been talking to all the drum corps and making sure, hey, do you have a medical director on board? And if you don't, like, let's start there. So that way, when you are recruiting athletic trainers, they feel comfortable coming into it, knowing that they're going to have, standing orders to sign off on and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of step number one. Step number two is obviously finding your athletic trainer. So we have been reaching out to colleges and universities to try to start partnering with them to see if we can start doing student immersions with each drum corps. So what that looks like is, obviously we want certified athletic trainers first, because that's what you need to have a student immersion, to be able to go into, I guess as a student, you need a preceptor, right? So having an athletic trainer there on.
Wait, what's a preceptor?
Sorry, preceptor is like someone that's going to be overseeing the student. So okay. Almost like a mentor, if you will.
Okay, that makes sense.
Oh, I think we're back now.
Oh, yeah, we froze for a minute, but keep going.
Okay,
so
awesome.
There's this whole hierarchy that has to be put into place. It's not just even finding the trainers then.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So a preceptor is going to be that mentor, someone that's also an athletic trainer. They're certified, and they are basically overseeing all of the things that you're doing as a student. So when you do clinical rotations as a student athletic trainer, you need to have a preceptor in your sites, because they kind of oversee to make sure that you're doing everything correctly, how you need to be doing it. And if you need feedback, obviously with documentation and all that kind of stuff, they're there to sign off on basically everything that you're doing. So it's important that we have athletic trainers, certified athletic trainers on board, and then to get students as well. So, but with partnering with the colleges and universities, we're kind of creating this loop of, okay, if we have students, they're going to eventually become certified. And then once they're coming out and they're certified, they have an understanding and they've done it as a student, that it'll help kind of with that cycle of feeding the drum corps athletic trainers, because every year you're going to have graduating classes, right?
Okay, so are you saying that the students who are learning to become certified athletic trainers can be a part of the staff to help with the drum corps? Am I understanding that?
Yeah, exactly.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So that way it's more of an easy transition, especially because like if you've never done drum corps before, like it's a very, like as an athletic trainer that doesn't even know about performing arts or anything like that, it's definitely like there's going to be a learning curve, right? Going on tour, like what do you have to pack, and like all the things that you first learn when you're going on tour. So it's great to have that student experience to be able to do it as a certified athletic trainer. So, but there's kind of like the, I guess, counter to that is that you have to have a certified athletic trainer on tour. So that's kind of where we are trying to get athletic trainers on board. So obviously colleges and universities, once they graduate and they're certified, that's kind of that prime time that we want to find athletic trainers, because they're kind of in between of like getting into their first job, which typically starts later in the summer. Like if they're going into high school setting, obviously once football starts, they're on. But finding an athletic trainer that is available during that spring training time period or even on tour is that prime time post graduation and before they start the first job, and also while they're still young and they can do all the things that you need to do as an athletic trainer in drum corps, because it's definitely demanding. Being on the medical team is I would say it's a different kind of demanding than being on tour as a performer, but it's definitely demanding for sure. So demanding more in the more mental realm of things, but also physical too. I mean, you're out there in the heat and treating athletes or the performers, so it's definitely, I would say it's better to have that lively energy that, you have right out of school. So that's kind of the prime time that we like to target our audience. So when we talk about targeting social media for athletic trainers, we actually, when we do ads on whether it's Instagram or Facebook, we actually target our ads to be towards athletic trainers who are in that younger time frame. And I guess 20 to 30 or 35 is typically where we try to target that audience. And then also, of course, when you're doing ads and you're making your, I guess, targets or whatever, we typically, obviously we do it all nationwide US, but also, making sure that it's geared towards athletic trainers. So injury prevention, your sports medicine, all those kind of things that we are looking for, I guess, on social media, I guess, that makes sense. So that way those ads and stuff like that are targeted towards them. So that's another kind of recruiting route that we have been telling the drum corps to kind of see if they can do, is doing ads or even just posting on social media and sharing it that way. And that way it kind of gets the word out for their specific drum corps as well. But we have been working in different realms of, I guess, trying to recruit and seeing where we can get the most pull for athletic trainers. So wherever your spring training site is at, we recommend that you kind of look at the sports orthopedic offices in a 20-mile radius, I guess, and see if there are athletic trainers that are working there that are looking for extra work, right? So doing, weekend job, or, getting a couple hours in on the weekend or whatever it is, that they're in that local area. So it's easy for them to go and help out with the drum corps. So that way it's not I know the time commitment can be a little scary if you're 85 days of the summer, we need to take you away for, being on medical, which actually I personally would recommend doing, having a big enough medical team to where you can alternate. So every 2 weeks you have a little bit of a break, because with the demands of, what we do as athletic trainers, it's important that we get that rest, not just physically, but mentally as well. And so we don't want the medical team to burn out. And so that 2-week range is really good for, if you have an athletic trainer on for 2 weeks, then maybe they take, a week off or whatever, and then they come back on for another 2 weeks. And so you have kind of the overlap, right, of medical staffing. So that way, there's also a transfer of care, right, for whoever's coming on and off, that you have that solid transfer of care between whoever is being worked with as a performer, and making sure that they get that continuation, because that's one of the most important things in our field, is that continuation, making sure that they see care from the beginning to the end.
Yeah, of course. It's very interesting because that actually really corresponds to what the drum corps do with their other staff members too. I mean, you wonder why does this corps have 15 people on the brass staff? Well, it's because they can't all be there every minute, nor maybe should they, right? So to your point, it's good for them to come in and out. But then I've had those same people make the same point you just said, which is we have to really communicate. If someone hasn't been on the road and they show back up, where is the corps in, say, the brass staff? Where what changes have been made to the music? There's all this communication that's integral. I can see that that's the same thing here. Of course, they would have to communicate and share who's needing what help and what have I been doing and all of that.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. That's great.
It's incredible. So before, I want to ask you some specifics about the DCI work, but before we do, is there something average guy like me can do to help? Are you looking for just regular Joes that are drum corps fans or out there in the world of marching to try to help recruit these athletic trainers too?
Yeah, I mean, definitely sharing anything on social media is definitely helpful, getting the word out, just for people who aren't familiar with the drum corps world and getting that word out. Even if it's like, you have a friend that's a nurse or, a physical therapist or PA, whatever it is, like if you know medical, professionals in your small corner or small world, definitely get the word out and just like share the news that like I will guarantee that there will be a drum corps that will probably love to have some help, even if it's adding on another medical professional, even for a short amount of time. Like that extra help definitely supports even the staff that's on at that time, giving them a little break even when they're on, And so I think yeah, the more that we can get the word out in any realm that we can, and obviously there's different conferences and stuff like that with National Athletic Training Association that we've had some of the athletic trainers actually in the drum corps world advocate and really making sure that we get the word out. So I would love to keep helping in that realm of things, going to different conferences and really just like spreading the word as much as we possibly can. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Any help that any
Yeah,
Joe
so
Schmo,
you heard it, everybody. If you know somebody that's in this category of athletic trainer or medical person, like talk it up. Tell them spend a little time with a drum corps and help out in whatever way that might look like. But I love that we can all sort of help contribute to that. I actually know. I mean, I have relatives who are athletic trainers, whatever, and I'd be interesting to be like, have you ever thought about spending a couple weeks with the drum corps? I mean, it's an interesting world,
yeah.
and I would think for an athletic trainer, it would be, I don't know, like an endless supply of interesting projects to try to figure out and solve, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I honestly have seen a lot more like crazy things happen in drum corps than even just like regular football, practice or whatever. It's like wild the
I can
injuries
see
that
it.
they sustain.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
totally get it. Okay, so I have a couple more questions for you, but before we get there, okay, so you've sort of mentioned in passing a couple of times, man, how hard it is, the long days out in the sun with the core, so like, give me an idea of a day for
Mhm.
an athletic trainer with a drum corps. Like, there I am, like,
Yeah.
how does my day go? Am I on the field? Am I on the side in a little tent? Am I in
Mhm.
like, how does this whole thing happen? I'd like to hear,
Yeah.
just, you don't have to tell me too much, but I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So a lot of I've had a couple different experiences at different cores. So every core is different in how they
Sure, sure.
have their setups and everything. But with Carolina Crown, we actually do all of our treatments during meal blocks. So we start the day, breakfast will be at the food truck, especially like when we're on tour. Obviously, we are mostly stationed at the food truck. All of our supplies, our rehab equipment, our first aid, whatever we need is right there at the food truck. We also have stuff that we take with us as needed. But yeah, so we'll do treatments during breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then snack, of course. But on the road, especially during show days, we'll have times for them to come. Obviously, breakfast is typically the I guess most popular time, or I don't know, maybe not most popular, but it's an opportunity for them to come and get treatment there. And then also, before shows, they have time during EPL. If they need something, they can get, tapes or whatever before they go to the show. And then obviously we're there, with them during warm-ups, making sure that everything's going smoothly. And then, yeah, there during the show, especially if anything happens, and then post-show, making sure everyone gets off the field and they're healthy and they're, they're still walking on 2 feet, scooping up any kids if they're not, the heat can be
Yeah.
brutal. But actually, I was just at the Atlanta show, DCI Atlanta, and they had a cold tub in the backstage area of the field, which is great because a cold tub is gold standard for us as athletic trainers with heat emergencies and heat stroke, heat illness, and stuff like that. And so I'm really happy to see that DCI is starting to incorporate, especially at those hotter shows, making sure that we have access to cold tubs, which is great. It's awesome. So I love to see that the activities progressing in the medical realm of things and making sure that all the drum corps. I know MASH has been working on getting all of the drum corps kestrels, which are it's like a wet bulb unit, so it measures
Right.
heat for us, and it gives us that temperature of what. Well, not just temperature; it's air temperature, humidity, air like wind speed, and then obviously the sunlight, the black bulb temperature as well. So it takes into account all these different temperatures, and it calculates a number for us so that way we can make sure that the drum corps are staying cool right throughout their day-to-day rehearsals, because let's be real, it gets really hot, especially like Texas tour through like swamp tour, basically what I like to call it.
Yeah. Oh, listen,
It gets really hot.
I mean, it's been a long time since I marched, but I have never been hotter in a drum corps field than I was in Texas. My favorite story from that, sorry, everybody, I'm digressing, but my favorite story was that we were practicing on an AstroTurf field in an actual college football stadium. I marched Phantom Regiment eons ago, but I remember that we were on this field. It was crazy hot, and someone looked over and the orange cones were melting.
No way. Oh
That's
my
when we knew it
goodness.
was really hot. This was before the day of the wet bulbs, everybody. So I'm sure they were keeping us safe. I wasn't worried about that. But I love that you're talking about this. So say I'm a member of a drum corps and like I'm starting to have this issue with my elbow or my ankle, whatever. So then I'm going to just keep checking in with the athletic trainer for treatments or taping, or just to make sure that I'm doing everything I can to alleviate the problems with that, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. There's that daily check-in, and it's great, especially being on tour as an athletic trainer. You have direct access to make sure that your performers and athletes are checking in with you daily, and they're doing their symptom check-ins and see how they're feeling. And you really get to build that like relationship and rapport with the athletes to make sure, because like you kind of know how they're feeling. Like if they're in pain, like you have that relationship, with them to make sure that they're
Yeah.
doing well and performing well. So yeah, they check in, they'll do their rehab exercises, whatever they need in terms of taping or anything like that they need to keep that pain down, and also making sure that they're safe, right, performing. Because at the end of the day, if you have an injury it needs rest, and oftentimes like how drum corps is. We don't like to
Oh
rest
yeah.
on tour. Like
Oh yeah.
we're practicing. So it's important that communication with the staff is there, and to have that being an advocate for your performer is really important, because as a performer, I know I would just push through the pain and, just like, all right, it's fine. Like we'll just keep doing it. But my athletic trainer was there to support me, and she was definitely an advocate and was like, nope, we're not performing tonight. Like it's okay. One show out of the whole season. It's not the end of the world. Like it's going to be all right. But being that advocate for the performers is really important, because you know how they are. They're dedicated. They've got that
Sure.
drive. They don't want to miss out on a performance, which is totally understandable. And I feel them on that level. And I'm like, okay, we're going to get you back as fast as possible, but also as safely as possible. We don't want you to injure yourself worse in the
Right, which
process.
pull you out, which is you don't want to do that at all. You want to
Right.
make it through the season and be able to be there at finals. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Wow, this is so interesting to me, and I love that when we're talking about this very specific thing that happens. But like I always like to point out, MK, like people don't realize what a giant circus a DCI. You know what I mean? Like there are so many pieces of the puzzle, and if people stop and think about the different, you're feeding the kids, you're keeping them safe, and you're transporting them around. And I have a friend that always drives the truck for Crown every year.
Yeah.
Hey, Chaz, listening, hopefully. But anyway, it's amazing how many people are involved. Somebody's selling souvenirs, somebody's setting up it's a huge undertaking. And so now that we're having this conversation, it's amazing to me that this hasn't, like you guys have given some organization and structure to something that seems very important that needed it. So hooray for Marching Health for sort of bringing this to the activity. I mean, it was there, but I feel like you guys are bringing another level of organization and sort of level of care that seems that I'm liking this. It sounds good.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
definitely want to help and support. It's definitely been a struggle just to find medical staffing. And so we really would want to support and help all the drum corps really get the staffing that they need, because it's definitely important for the kids, keep them healthy and all that kind of stuff. So we're excited about, what's to come in this next year, and really get on top of it. Especially like it's important for, like, honestly, recruiting starts after this Saturday, right? DCA finals, like it starts on Sunday, like, you know what I mean? And so a lot of times, we can get lost in, all the other crazy things that, like you said, it's a circus, right? So recruiting is so important, especially in this beginning time, to get ahead of it and get on top of all of that recruiting. So that way, come April camp, we're not scrambling for staffing, and trying to make sure that it all happens. But
Yeah. And as we said already, everybody, if you know somebody that's in this world, start talking to them about maybe helping out in this way and being a part of this, because we are looking for medical people and athletic trainers and all of that to make this work. So if you know somebody, tell them to contact Marching Health and ask some questions and see if maybe they could be a part of it. So I know that you guys are starting to work specifically with the winter activity as well, and the winter guard and color guards maybe more than you were. So tell me about that. Like, how are you guys? Is there something specific about color guard health
Yeah.
in the marching activity that's specific that you'd like to mention?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as someone who did color guard and winter guard, that's kind of like my passion and what I really want to dive into a little bit more, especially with WGI, all the WGI groups and everything like that. So, yeah, I think we see a lot of the more of the in terms of warm ups, right? For color guard, we see a lot of the static stretching in the beginning of rehearsal, and so it's important, just like we talk about in all the things that we do with marching health in terms of the marching band season. We want to get on top of that and really make sure that these color guards are doing more of the dynamic side of things and not spending an hour long stretching, doing these at the start of the day or whatever, that we're not just spending an hour long doing static stretching. Yes, dynamic movements are important and that's what we want to strive for, but we definitely want to support winter guards in that sense of really helping educate and getting to the root cause of the common mistakes, especially with, you think about being barefoot on a floor for that long, like, oh my gosh, come on. Like, I was one of those people who wore tennis shoes all winter season long, and shout out to my director, she let me do it, so that's great. But I think it's important that we support ourselves with good shoes and all that kind of stuff. And because if you think about it, like when you're in the dance world and you're inside and on a sprung floor, right, you have that, I guess, more of a supportive floor, right? You're bouncing, like it's more supportive and not as hard as like a gym floor, right? Which most of winter guards practice in a gym, and they just have
Right.
their little tarp, So it's important that we are kind of recognizing those little things throughout the winter guard season that can contribute to long-term injuries. And oh gosh, I could go into a whole whole tangent on nutrition and all the other fun things that come along with
Well,
your winter guard season.
right, but the point is that there's a need in all of the phases of the marching world, right? We know you guys are clearly helping marching bands, very involved in drum corps, and the winter people need it too. Like all those activities, as you mentioned, all the things, all the things need to be talked about and discussed. And I'm glad that you guys are working on that. Is there something specific? So you mentioned some specifics already about the winter activity. Certainly dancing on a hard gym floor is going to be one of those. Is there anything else around the color guard specifics that you wanted to mention?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually, one of my passions and I guess something that really intrigues me is concussions. And so I've had 3 concussions myself from color guard. And so I would love to dive into more of the prevalence of concussions that are coming about in the winter guard world, and even color guard in general in the fall season, because I feel like the amount of concussions are increasing. And what my hypothesis is, obviously I haven't done research in this, but if I were to go back to school and do some research, this is what I would kind of dive into, would be I guess more of the VOR, your vestibular, like tracking, your eye tracking, and how that correlates to usage of like phones and like early on development nowadays, is that we are kind of in this very digital world, and we're not getting as much visual and even like hand-eye coordination, right? Exposure as we're growing up and as, we're kind of developing as humans, right? And so I'm interested to see that if because of that, our eye tracking is not as quick. And so we're not able to respond to our equipment as quickly. Granted, I have not done any research. This is all just like, just
it makes
thoughts
sense.
and,
Yeah.
and so I think it'd be interesting to see and kind of diving into that. Seeing how concussions are concussions increasing, or is it just the awareness it's great that awareness is increasing and that we are treating concussions more frequently, which is awesome. But now that we have the data, we're accumulating data as the years go on, and I would be interested to see is that correlation increasing based on just your eye tracking ability and all that kind of stuff. So we do baseline concussion testing in drum corps, and so there's actually an app called Sway. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a really great tool, and I recommend that all drum corps use it. But they it's basically on your phone. They do a bunch of different tests for similar to impact testing, if you've heard of impact testing before. But it is a neurocognitive test to see what your baseline is, and so it'll test balance, it'll test reaction time, and see what your baseline symptoms are. So that way, when you do or if you do sustain a concussion, hopefully you don't, but if you do, you have that data and baseline to be able to go back to. And so it's important that we have that, not just in drum corps setting, but also I would argue in winter guard too, and in those settings. So it's really important that we take into account that I guess just baseline data and making sure that we're staying healthy. But I mean, I personally would be interested to see that correlation of concussion and in winter guard or in color guard in general. So that's just kind of my.
It's very interesting. And yeah, I think it's really, really interesting. And of course, the flip side of that would be that if there are young people growing up with that sort of deficiency of that kind of eye coordination, whatever, well, what better way to improve that than to do something like color guard, because you're learning an awareness of spatial and all that. So like, that's very cool. I also think, and this is me, of course, just conjecture here on our off the cuff conversation, everybody, I'm no professional around this, but I do feel like I know that the winter guards are very diligent about keeping their members safe, but we have to admit that they are doing a lot of more difficult tricks.
Yes,
more
absolutely.
Turns, more jumps, more whatever. And I had a conversation early in the year with Daniel Wiles, talking about the amazing work that he's doing, of course, at Avon and all the different groups he works with. But he was talking about how he got the tip from the people at Tarpon to how do you get your kids to learn all these tricks? And he's like, oh, they're wearing helmets.
Yeah, that's great.
So anyway, so like, that makes perfect sense. Well, like there's an example of a way to keep your kids safe while they're trying to learn these difficult things. But back in the day, we weren't doing 5 turns and catching, with your big toe or whatever. So I do think we have to, that's a special thing that the winter guard people have to work through and figure out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. It's very interesting, and definitely the activity is just advancing day by day. I mean, oh my gosh, like the tricks and things that they're doing now, I'm like, holy cow, I don't even know how they're doing it. But yeah, no, wearing helmets and also training, like whatever trick that they're doing, training that prior to even putting equipment into the air. Because I think a lot of times, like we're like, oh yeah, let's do the trick, and then we throw the equipment in there, but we're not like 100% perfect in. Well, obviously, we're not going to always be 100% perfect, but is try to get as proficient in the trick itself, the body part of it, and then practicing both individually, the toss and the trick at the same or at different times, and then putting it all together. So yeah, I definitely
you have to prepare yourself. You have to prepare yourself. It's just like if you're doing gymnastics or dance, or whatever, you have to prepare your body to be strong enough and ready to do these things.
Yeah,
because I have a wonderful friend, Lauren, who is a wonderful dance instructor. She talks about how she's always worried because she will see these students at dance contests sometimes trying to do things that she doesn't think they're ready for, right? Like they don't seem to have whatever they might need or training. Anyway, it's an aside, but I love that you are interested in this, that Marching Health is working on this, and anything that we can all do together to make the students have less injuries, be more prepared, be stronger, have more fun. Like it's all good stuff. Man, have you ended up in a great spot? Okay. Like I'm excited for you. What a great job you have.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a blast. I have really loved it, and working with the team, it's been awesome. So yeah,
and Dr. Elliott Cleveland, of course, is doing a fantastic job with Marching Health. I'm excited about the new partnership with DCI. That's very official. All the things. Everybody, we gave you some tasks. Go out there, find your friends who are athletic trainers or medical people, and tell them to contact Marching Health about possibly being involved. MK, I love that you're doing this. Thank you for having this conversation. What would you want to say in closing as we're wrapping up this conversation? Anything you want to say sort of wrap this all up?
Oh my gosh. Well, I would just say really just take care of your bodies, especially if you're a performer, and really being proactive on the injury prevention side of things. That will also make the athletic trainer's life a lot easier in the long term of things, because obviously we want to see you performing on the field. Our job is really to help you get back onto the field as fast as possible. So if you guys do the work and really take care of your bodies outside of practice and all of that kind of stuff, I would really, I would just say, yeah, keep doing what you love and really just take care of your bodies in the process. And yeah, I mean, I definitely share with any of your medical friends, if they're interested, and definitely tell them to reach out to us and really just help the activity grow in the medical realm, because that's what we're here to do, and help DCI, help them grow in the medical field and help the activity all together. So we are just so stoked to be able to have this partnership with DCI and help all the young performers that are coming into it. So yeah.
Well, it's really important work. And I love that we can send our students off to the drum corps activity, really all of the activities, knowing that they're being well trained, they're being well taken care of. And listen, if you have a band program or a winter guard program and you want to make sure that your students are being trained correctly, they're preparing for the season correctly, that they're doing everything they can do to be healthy, and you don't want any students getting injured or sitting out, God forbid,
Mm-hmm.
during the season, reach
Yeah.
out to Marching Health, go to the website, see what resources they have, because we all need to keep our students safe. And a lot of that, as MK already said, is preparing them to be ready for the season. You can't just show up on day one. MK, this was so interesting. Thank you for talking to me.
Thank you so much for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah, it was really fun. Thanks.